Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Tolhurst. Welcome to the Globetrotter Newscast for today, the 28th of March, the last one of the month, the last one before England's Step 1B of lockdown easing happens tomorrow. I am joined by Labour supporter Zach Chambers through StreamYard tonight. Hello, Zach.
Hello. Hi, Charlie.
So I'm live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for the Globetrotter Newscast. If you have any comments, please send them in below. And we're going to get on with the podcast tonight. Now, as you can tell what I am wearing today, or tonight for this podcast, Formula One was back today in Bahrain with an absolute banger race. And Zach, Lewis Hamilton taking it home in the end. What did you make of Formula One's return in 2021?
Oh, 2 seasons in a row, two exciting starts, Charlie. Let's just say that. It's great. I have to say, I, you know, when you think about recent seasons and the first race, you think, oh god, it's gonna be another boring old season. Mercedes going to run away with it. I mean, yes, they did run away, and they did win it today, but. It was actually. Do you know what made this race really exciting, Charlie? Was it was actually really close for once. I know. Normally, when it's a Mercedes win, you just run away with it, and off in the distance, bye bye. It's almost like the rest of the field's left behind. They only just about won this race, and it was Lewis Hamilton had to use every little defense that he had in his car. And knowing the driver he did really well, and he used it brilliantly.
It was, oh, Zach's left. We've just had a bit of a technical glitch there, guys. Unfortunately, Zach has somehow disappeared off the screen. But yes, as Zach mentioned there, with Lewis Hamilton claimed his 96th career victory in for any driver in the sport. As you know, it's a huge achievement for a Mercedes and for any team as well. We are having some technical difficulties tonight, so just bear with us for a second. But yes, I will fill everyone in. So Lewis Hamilton claiming his 96th career victory. Second, only 0.7 of a second off, was Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. Max Verstappen, of course, qualified on pole, but sadly finished second. And yeah, difficult race for Verstappen, but I'm sure second would be good enough for MAX. I think certainly Max Verstappen was a little bit disappointed after that race. We are just getting Zach back on now. Apologies for some technical difficulties.
I'm really sorry. My phone just crashed. So my bad. Right. Well, should I go back to what I was explaining, Charlie? Because I think it would be probably best to go back and do that.
That's fine, Zach. I filled you in there. That was fine. I just said that Max Verstappen was second.
My phone's already given up, so I'm back on my laptop. But yeah, without any headphones. But yeah, that's fine. But yeah,
17th of a second, Verstappen.
Yeah. So it obviously was a great fight for the victory. That was certain for sure. My goodness, what a race we had, Charlie. Let's just say that. I'm just going to fill it out there. But it was great. It was really great. It was Max's to win. He lost it. I have to say, he would have won it having he not passed off the track, Charlie, I think. But he did well. He did really well. I mean, goodness me, he did come back. He just didn't win, which was a bit of a shame, really, if you're a Verstappen fan. But Lewis really defended really well today on that race. It was brilliant. And I won't be going back to my phone because it crashed last time, so let's not bother about that.
Hamilton winning. Third went the way of Valtteri Bottas in Mercedes. For Mercedes, Bottas a long way off in the end. Nothing we could do with Valtteri.
Yeah.
Literally really off the pace. What would your driver of the day have to be?
My driver of the day, I'm just thinking there's some good options in there. I think my driver of the day has to go with the one that the fans voted today, and I think it was Sergio Perez, who obviously struggled in qualifying and then had a problem going up to the grid, even as the car just switched off. And then, the genius of him starting from the pit lane, he came up to fifth position, battling his way through the track. He did a great job, Perez. He battled his way through the track. I thought Red Bull nearly stuffed up his strategy earlier. He was obviously went for a free stop, but it actually worked in the end. His free stop, I think he did, because he was very fast. And I think Perez is normally a driver that's better on race pace than what it normally what he does. He's great on race pace, and he's normally not as good in qualifying as we saw yesterday, Charlie. Which hampered him quite a bit, and that electronic issue could have been a lot worse than what it was if you not get the car going. But he did really well. He really did well. He drove at the field. I think Red Bull wants him to get a bit more results in, especially qualifying, because that's where they're going to have to work with him on, I think, Charlie. But the race, he did well. Now, if he has a good qualifying result in the next race, hopefully he can then start going at least battling with the likes of Bottas, at least, Charlie, I think, hopefully.
Yeah.
As long as they sort out that qualifying pace. And the curse of the second driver at Red Bull is still there. Knowing their slight problems. I don't know whether it's the car, Charlie. It's just the car seems to. I don't know it's the driver. I can't. I'm beginning more and more now, thinking it's it's the car rather than the driver or anything. The drivers have got a bit of confidence in the car. They Max has managed to get away with his. But I don't know really. I think there's something wrong. With that second car. And they need to address that issue.
Lando had a very good race, didn't he? Lando Norris, fourth for McLaren. Yeah. Strong result from him.
Fourth. Excellent race for Norris. He had he could have done a better qualifying, but at the end of the day, he kept his strategy. He had a quiet race in fourth. He managed to have a good start, and he maintained consistency throughout the race, I think, Charlie. And he was fourth in a very, very quiet front, outside the top, outside of the Hamilton Verstappen. But he did a very good race, and he consistently performs good in that car, I think, Norris. So McLaren, I think, are at the moment possibly the fourth car on the grid at the moment. If turns the best car.
Also, just getting the standings up now. Perez fifth, Leclerc sixth, Ricciardo seventh, Sainz eighth. Yuki Tsunoda scores points on his debut for AlphaTauri and for ninth, and Aston Martin's Lance Stroll completes the points. And Zach, what did you make of the drivers I've mentioned? How were their races?
Well, I have to say, first of all, Charlie, Yuki Tsunoda. I think that's the first Japanese driver, a rookie, to score points since Kamui Kobayashi in Australia 2012, I think that is. He should be immensely proud of his weekend, Yuki Tsunoda. I'm surprised at how well and how confident he looks in that car, even in Friday practice. Yes, he had a bit of a struggle in qualifying, but he managed to recover that a little bit. Going into the race on Sunday, it sort of fell back at the beginning and had a few little drop back, but he did well, Charlie. He managed to get in the points, 2 points for ninth, and he did brilliantly. I'm really impressed with the potential that young man has. He's not old as well. I think he's like 20 years old, something like that as well. So much
2020,
and he really impressed me.
Also, as well, Ricciardo in the McLaren, Leclerc in the Ferrari, Sainz in the Ferrari. How did you make their races?
I think they did it right. it's not the most greatest glamorous weekends that they have, but I think at the end of the day they just need to coast it home really. At the end of the day, could have been better for Ricardo, could have been better for both of them. Really, to be fair, I mean, but I think that's where we were going to expect it to be. I think Ferrari have made a slight improvement compared to last season. I don't think it's been shown yet. From what I see, I don't know if we've seen enough of it yet. But yeah, I think that's where we expect it to be. And they did all right, I think. But I think there will be room for improvement next week. I'm sorry, in 3 weeks' time. 3 weeks, I mean, goodness me, that's a long gap between the next race.
That's the next race is in Imola.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Imola. Look forward to that.
Also, Zach, as well, a couple of collisions as well. The first race, after appearing to clip the back of Daniel Ricciardo's McLaren, Ricciardo luckily not getting.
Yeah.
Vettel getting in the wars with Esteban Ocon in the Alpine.
Yeah.
A horror show.
Yeah.
What did
Yeah.
He's got. What do you make of him settling into that team at the moment?
Well, you have to say it was. I have to say it was quite a poor weekend overall for Aston Martin. You thought, you thought they would do better based on their recent results. I mean, yes, there's obviously the rule changes they were saying as well on the television. That obviously because of the changes with the aero and these low rate cars, that it's affecting teams such as Mercedes and Aston Martin, because Aston Martin uses a lot of Mercedes parts, Charlie. And they really struggle for performance. I mean, Vettel, first of all, unluckily got caught out by the Nikita Mazepin yellow flag in qualifying, or as we now know, Nikita Mazepin after this weekend, Nikita Mazepin, as many in the F1 community are calling him, from what I'm reading.
He spun off on lap 1, didn't he? As well.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'll go back in for a minute, Charlie. But Vettel got unlucky on qualifying, I think, just because of the Nikita Mazepin spinning. Yes, at the same time, he was also he went too fast when Carlos Sainz stopped at the end of Q2 as well, I think it was, and ended up getting a penalty because he didn't slow in the double yellow flag zone, and got grid penalty, 5 places, 3. I think it was 3 race driver points license as well. And yeah, today as well, he had a horrible race, Vettel. I think, Charlie. I don't agree with his interpretation of what happened. I have to say, if anything, I think he drove into the back of him. I think he changed his line, Vettel, rather than Ocon changing his line, because Vettel thought, Ocon was changing lines and not giving room and anything like that. No, he didn't even show that on the onboard, I'm afraid, because Vettel went, he took the right-hand line, Ocon the left, no other problems. Vettel somehow confusedly thought that Ocon was taking a different line, and Vettel turned left, drove in the back of Ocon. And I understand he got 2 more penalty points from that, so he's already got 5 penalty points out of 12 you can already get, Charlie. So yeah, pretty torrid weekend. Unfortunately, Vettel's habits are still about, I'm afraid, Charlie. With his incidents prone, I think that's something he really needs to get a grip over, because he was prone to such silly mistakes and unnecessary incidents. And unfortunately, he needs to get in the habit of improving that. He needs to be in the space where he cannot be making those mistakes, and that's something for him to work on.
Sebastian Vettel's got to have a much better weekend, certainly, if he's going to get anywhere come Imola in a few weeks' time. But yeah, and then of course Gasly, very unlucky for him. Oh, what a shame for Gasly after losing his front wing early on in the race, and he's just finishing out the points. Could have done a lot more. Pierre Gasly down. I think he finished down in. Oh, let me get the positions up here. 17th. Retirements from the race. Nikita Mazepin spun off, caused a safety car. Fernando Alonso, Zach, as well, retiring with, I believe, a brake by wire failure or something. What a shame for Fernando, Zach, on his first race back in a couple of years.
Yeah, unlucky for him, Charlie. Unlucky for him. He had a good start, I think, Fernando. I think, and then he really struggled for pace mid race. He really struggled. His tires were giving up on him. He was struggling. Everyone else was overtaking him. He got caught out of the pit stops. And then he had a technical issue. Very unlucky for him, really. I think he could have done better had he finished. He could have got a top 10 at least. But yeah, it's a mechanical issue, and it's a shame really because he had a good qualifying, Charlie. I think he had a really good qualifying. He finished in that top 10 up there, and yeah, mechanical issues just stuffing really him up. Really, not what he wanted for his first race back. I'm sure he'll he'll come back. He'll come back, Charlie. I'm pretty sure that better races ahead for Fernando. I think we should just show him what potential he has in that car, even if it wasn't not the best performing this weekend. I think we're showing what potential he has in it. Really, to be fair.
Before God, yeah. What do you make of Alpine?
Yeah.
What do you make of Alpine?
Yeah. I think for Alpine, they had a good performing car in qualifying, and then it's just the incidents that set them back. I mean, yeah, as I said, Yuki Tsunoda, great job to get to ninth. He could have done better had he not had a problem that had fell back early on. Gasly race was screwed really, Charlie, by the incident where hitting the back of Daniel Ricciardo and taking off your front wing, and that really just set the race for later on for him. Unfortunately, it was a shame really because he had a great qualifying, but got caught up in the melee of hitting the back of the McLaren, and that ruined his race from there onwards, Charlie. I think the performance is there for AlphaTauri, Charlie. I think the performance is absolutely there. It just they need to perform in the race, and unfortunately, a driver error meant they didn't.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Gasly, yeah,
it's a shame for them. I really was expecting more. So, shame. And yeah, we championship, but we're going to move on from Formula One now to NASCAR, Food City Dirt Race. Haven't seen much of this Zach at all over the weekend, but what's it like at the moment down in Bristol?
Yeah, I know about. Yeah, I know about that at the moment, Charlie, because the race has actually been delayed until tomorrow now because of rain. But I have seen some practice footage of it. Looks very fun. Looks very, very fun. I was going on some of the onboards and it's amazing, Charlie. I can't wait to see what they're like on the track tomorrow because that looks potentially amazing with how they're going to race. It looks brilliant. Absolutely fun. It just looks so good on dirt. I just say dirt racing overall is just so amazing. It looks so amazing, Charlie. I can't wait really. It's tomorrow. I'll probably get a bit of time to watch it actually, thinking about it because the races got delayed. So it starts with the truck race. We could have seen the heat races. I think they red flagged it. The truck race, the heat race, qualifying race yesterday because the rain affected the dirt so much it was hovering, sticking onto the windows rather than coming off, and nobody could see. So it was dangerous, really, Charlie. It was a bit of a shame, really. But oh well, they're going to try again tomorrow at least, Charlie. At least we have both the Truck Series race and the Cup Series race, which was supposed to be done today, but it got rain delayed rather sadly, Charlie.
And Zach as well. I think Martin Truex Jr. also had a spin as well, which might have caused a few issues.
Oh yeah. He spun out. It's a really easy on dirt. It's really easy to spin the car because you're going more sideways than you ever have done, Charlie. So what happens is you go a lot sideways a lot, and it's not very grippy at all, Charlie. It's a bit, it's a bit like watching, Drift GT or something like that, where you just drift all the way across the speedway. I have to say, it probably feels a bit uncomfortable if you were in the car doing that sort of thing. But it looks very entertaining, and you're very prone to make mistakes. You don't go very fast, but it's not fast. It's very race though and entertaining. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Now, also as well, last weekend we had the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500 as well, and apparently the winner was not Kyle Larson. He actually got overtaken by Ryan Blaney, and he claimed victory in that one.
Yep. Yeah, he led most of the race because I think we were speaking last week, Charlie, whilst this was going on, and he got overtaken. He got overtaken by Ryan Blaney, and he Blaney at the end of the day, he was the overtaken. He got the victory, which was great. I think it was a bit of a relief for Ryan Blaney at the end of the day. He's obviously going to be very interested to get the result at Bristol. Larson was actually on pole for this Bristol dirt race. He's going to the rear though, because obviously I'm just checking why he's going to the rear, but he's on pole, but he's going to the rear. Let me get it up. Why? Okay, they changed engines, so they're always going to get some sort of penalty for that. So he's going to go to the rear. But yes, it was good. It was a win for Ryan Blaney last week, Charlie, and a very important one as well that puts in the playoffs.
Yeah, Ryan Blaney moving to the playoffs next month, so a big week for Ryan Blaney there as well. And that's all the NASCAR action. Of course, please watch the Food City Dirt Race. It's delayed tomorrow. The next event will be and I believe that's on the 11th of April, if I'm correct. So we're going to have a 2-week break after this NASCAR event. Yeah. But we're going to move on now, Zach, to coronavirus. And I can say things are getting a lot better in this country. The number of deaths today was down, I think, something like over 90% from the peak in January. And we are on course for further easing of the coronavirus lockdown restrictions. How would you say, Zach, that we are in a good position compared to what we were a week ago?
We are. We are in terms of deaths. I think it was under 20 today that they reported. Obviously, this is a weekend effect, Charlie. So there's going to be, a delay, and it'll probably the death will probably rise tomorrow. But yes, we are doing stage. We're doing part 2 of stage 1 opening tomorrow. You can do a lot more outdoor activities. The legal requirements for staying at home ends that day tomorrow, which means that people can meet outside, have picnics, do activities, basically in time for the Easter holiday. And the weather's looking good next week, Charlie. This week, I have to say, Charlie, I'm reading it's going to be hotter than Ibiza. So this is the perfect week to be lifting restrictions. So yes, outdoor. The rule of 6 returns. That's one of the measures, I have to say. Outdoors, I should out. That's that is returning outdoors. But yeah, I look forward because we are open. Another bit of slight opening up tomorrow then, Charlie.
Yes, rule of 6, outdoors also meeting of 2 households can take place as well. And outdoor sports such as tennis and golf can also resume from tomorrow. And grassroots football can resume as well. Great news, Zach, isn't it? And step 2, no earlier than the 12th of April. That looks very much on course as well, isn't it?
It does. We're smashing with the vaccines. And step 2 looks like it's going to happen on 12th of April. That will include the opening of non-essential retail, hair and nail salons and buildings, outdoor venues opens, including in the hospitality sector as well, Charlie. That's going to be critical when that's done. So that's a 3-week gap there on its way. Oh, excuse me. But
yeah.
oh God, yeah, yeah. So we're getting there, Charlie. We're doing really well. We just passed the 30 million mark as well, I believe, today, Charlie, on the vaccine front. 30 million doses now have been put into arms, which is fantastic news. And it just shows you what a brilliant strides the UK has made in this vaccine program, and the result of it, of how it's done, is brilliant job overall, Charlie. 30 million.
Yes. I have some news because I was actually one of the people last week that got my vaccination.
Oh yeah, yes. I saw. Congratulations. I saw, and I don't know. It's great to see. I think you got it. Did you get it Friday or Thursday? I can't remember. You must have got it
Monday. I had it. I had the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, and I said to the nurse who was actually there, that this will be a slap in the face to the EU for suspending it. After all.
Goodness me, Charlie! I don't know. I don't know what you. I don't know what the door. I don't know how the poor doctor would have. What the poor doctor would have to said. I don't know. Don't know whether they should be political inside the in the vaccine rollout. I know they're proud to be British. I don't know how they would have reacted, but yeah. Okay, you kind of agree, but I'll be a little bit right over that person on the spot you said that to me. But
I tell you what, Zach, though, that like the AstraZeneca vaccine, I didn't come back with any blood clots. I was a bit. I was in bed.
Thank God for that.
I thank God for that. I was a bit rough on Tuesday morning in bed, but I'm now fine, and the vaccine is really now given me the protection that it needs. Over a few weeks, I'll get the 76% protection that they've said.
Yes.
And yeah, it helped one step closer to coming back to normality. And I'm proud to be part of the NHS. And I'd like to say a huge thank you to the Vaccines Minister, Nadeem Zahawi, for just organising this programme, because he's in charge of all this, the Minister for Vaccine Deployment. And Zach, we also have some news from the vaccine forefront, because I've been hearing that from September, there is going to be booster jabs that are going to be offered for anyone over the age of 70 and those who are clinically extremely vulnerable.
Yes, that's going to be critical. There's variants still hanging about, Charlie, and some of them slightly affect the vaccine in terms of efficiency and protection, like the South African and the Brazilian ones. So they will be needed in the winter, because we are going to still live with coronavirus, Charlie. There'll still be cases around, and we want a vaccine that doesn't work and is going to reduce the efficiency of transmitting across the UK. That's the last thing we want to see. So these vaccines, vaccine boosters, are definitely necessary, Charlie. Definitely necessary in terms of just protecting ourselves from new variants, not just the original COVID strain, but the current strains that are around the world, and that could risk the efficiency of the vaccine. That's the last thing you want to see. So these boosters are much needed, Charlie.
And Zach as well. I mean, the Prime Minister was warning of a third wave from Europe last week, and I was left wondering that this won't be as bad in the UK because our vaccine rollout's much better. But then Labour are calling for tougher restrictions at the border. I mean, I thought Boris was sort of trying to be a bit like scaremongering the British public last week.
I was just gonna say that, Charlie, as well, because I listened to him and I thought, really, a third wave? I mean, it's possible in cases, Charlie, but as you said, we're vaccinating so much that the effects of a third wave, if we ever do get one, isn't going to be as bad because of the vaccine. Now, one thing you will obviously need to keep an eye on the death counter. You might rely less on the cases than you might do the death. But if the death rate's low and doesn't increase, then that can only be a sign that the vaccine's working, and it won't really affect people too much. So I think I agree. I think it's a bit of a, I think it's more of a tactic by the Prime Minister to say, well, you know what? If you're warning about the third wave, that might encourage you to give us more vaccines then, rather than this EU nationalism of vaccine protection that, some of the EU are doing. So it could be something like that. Yeah. I think it's a bit of a tactic here, a messaging tactic from the UK government, rather than anything. I think something serious that's going to come out of this. I think, Charlie.
Boris Johnson, yeah, and I think as well, Zach. I mean, Germany have said that that their third wave is going to be the worst and potentially the most deadliest from their health minister. It's clear that Europe are really struggling, aren't they? Really struggling.
Yeah. Angela Merkel made a rather bizarre decision this week, because she announced that Germany was going to go back into lockdown over the Easter, and then decided to not stick by her original plan of locking down. I thought it was a bit bizarre, really. I think she used to be an actual scientist herself, which, seems a bit strange, really, thinking that, well, yeah, it's a mistake to actually go into a third lockdown, but what we're going to do, we plan to do it. So it was a bit of a strange decision by Germany. There's other stuff as well, Charlie. The French as well, suddenly deciding that the over 55s shouldn't get the vaccine, even though the EMA has said it's safe. So yeah, there's still a bit of doolally and doodling from the EU on some EU countries on this. And I think some of their actions are a result of this third wave, I think, I'm afraid, Charlie.
I mean, Zach, it's absolutely ridiculous what's going on with Ursula von der Leyen last week attempting a block on the vaccine exports. I mean, it was utterly mad. I don't understand what they're playing at with some of this. And it's just been a difficult week for the EU, and it's just not been great. And I honestly think that they're going to have to grow up with the vaccine rollout. And they've got to get their own rollout well themselves, because they're struggling at the moment. So definitely supply issues in the EU, but they will get some. And we're going to get the Moderna vaccine in a few weeks' time as well, which should massively improve the rollout over here. But we're going to move on now, Zach, to Brazil. Over 3,000 deaths the other day from COVID. Ouch. And the president, Jair Bolsonaro, still believes in nasal spray and is still playing it down. Playing the pandemic down. What do you make of that?
Yeah, this is the guy who says that the vaccine's worse than actually getting the virus. Quite extraordinary. Jair Bolsonaro just being Jair Bolsonaro for whatever reasons. I literally cannot believe you would come out with that sort of comment. But yeah, his own ignorance is causing a variant and a lot of deaths, Charlie, a re-peaking of the worst proportions, unfortunately. So yeah, it's just horrendous, isn't it? I don't know what nasal spray even does to you. We had to, do you know what, just Charlie? I just want to bring this on as well. I just want to say this to you as well, because I thought it was extraordinary. I mean, forget about Jair Bolsonaro for a moment. I couldn't believe what Charles Walker said to the Channel 4 News. I think it was ITV or Channel 4 News this week. I'm sorry, I'm going a bit off topic here, but
that's fine. He's a comment he's mentioned about
spray. It reminds me of what Charles Walker said this week when he said he was scared of a needle being poked in his arm, and he said he would rather get a virus spray. I think, we found two equivalents here, Charlie. We have a British MP just being, doesn't like COVID regulations and is going to go around protesting with a milk bottle for whatever reason. And then we have this Brazilian Prime Minister who believes in hydroxychloroquine, got COVID, didn't wear a mask, had the courts force him to wear a mask, and it's basically, just bringing out the graveyards, really, in terms of COVID. If this was a money bottle, Charlie, he'd literally be swimming in it because or if we're going to use the death term, stonewalled in it. Really, to be fair, but yeah, two numpties of the world, if you're going to want to call it, of England and Brazil.
Yeah, Bolsonaro's not
Charles
having
Walker
it.
won.
Over
Bolsonaro,
100,000 new cases in Brazil the other day alone.
Yeah, it is a rocket of just Bolsonaro just killing off his own population for whatever reason. I mean, we hate COVID for God's sake, but goodness me, don't take out your population, your residents, your constituents, and everything like that. It's just a ridiculous. It's like wildfire over there. It is. It is. It's like the Amazon rainforest coming down, but in in a non-exist, an invincible reality. It's wild where they are, Charlie. It's absolutely wild.
Yeah, Brazil was struggling. Brazil were really struggling. Not good news from Brazil. But we're going to move on now, Zach, to last week's debate in Parliament on Thursday about whether to extend the coronavirus regulations. And I believe they were passed through the House of Commons, unsurprisingly, by 476 votes to about 76. 36 Tory MPs rebelled, and actually someone rebelled who I was a bit shocked to see, which was Liberal Democrats leader Sir Ed Davey, who said to the Prime Minister on Thursday, drop these draconian laws. That's a change from Ed Davey, isn't it, Zach?
Well, Liberal Democrats really finding their liberal identity again, Charlie. After being, I don't know what identity they were for the last few years. We don't know. But yeah, they're going to pass anyway, Charlie. There's no doubt about it. There was 36 of the Tory side that rebelled, including the Milk Walker, as I refer to, the Milk.
And also Sir Desmond Swain.
Desmond Swain,
well.
the Swainy. Yeah, it's your typical Tory rebels, really, on the back benches, Charlie. It was going to pass anyway. There are some powers that the government did remove in the end, I believe, from what I saw before the vote. But it was going to pass. And they are needed in some ways, Charlie. Maybe not. Maybe do we need them until October? That's up to the debate. But at the end of the day, you do need the powers in some way. Liberal Democrats' complaint was against the civil liberties. It sounds a bit like the lockdown and skeptic arguments now. They're joining the backbenchers of lockdown skeptics for whatever reason now. They didn't. It's funny because they didn't complain about civil liberties when they went into lockdown. Didn't complain then. They always thought about following the science. Now they're complaining about civil liberties for all the example. Are they fed up? They got tired. I don't know what's happened to them. How had a transformation overnight? Bit weird, really.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised by the Liberal Democrats, really.
Got a tweet here, Zach, from Sir Desmond Swain, who's the Conservative MP for New Forest. He said, tyranny is a habit and we haven't quite kicked it. By any measure, the emergency is over and the vaccination campaign is the guarantee. What do you make of these quotes about the lockdown powers?
Well, I suppose what you could say is the emergency is over. But you still need measures to control it anyway. You still need some measures. If you just get rid of the measures, you potentially overturn some. You'd probably lift more restrictions than what than you intend if you remove the powers. And lifting slowly but carefully is needed. Charlie. No doubt about it. It's people will vote against this whatever the way you think. There's some. The protest rules have now changed from what I understand, so that you can actually protest in tomorrow's reopening under the law. But I know it's a minority of Tory MPs making noises, and he said, and so are Liberal Democrats, who I'm surprised always just to see lockdown skeptics. Really, I'm a bit surprised. Sir Desmond's comments, by the way, were I don't necessarily agree with. in an emergency, yeah, he's right on that, but the rest of it, probably not.
I think it's very clear, Zach, that there's potential issues on this particular issue with Sir Desmond Swain's comments. And also Graham Brady was another one who rebelled. Steve Baker as well, the chair of the COVID recovery group, didn't want to support these measures for any longer. And I sure don't do as well. But I'm afraid we have to face the reality that we are going to be living with these crazy powers of measures for the next 6 months. Let's all hope by the 21st of June that most of these will be gone. Because I tell you what, Zach, some of these measures are utterly awkward to police, like the rule of 6, like the meeting of 2 households. That's they're meant to be easy things, but in terms of a policing spectrum, like the rule of 6 and that, it is very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it will be if you're in a group of 6. I think when you say 2 households as well, it's hard to police what 2 households is. Because if you're in a big group, Charlie, you could easily presume, well, they're breaking the rule of 6 quite easily. You never know you don't know whether they're in 2 households or not. The easy presumption for people would just be, oh, they're breaking the rules, they're not following the rule of 6. Well, yeah, that's harder to police than I would say the rule of 6. The rule of 6 probably would be easy to police because if you see 6 people together, for example, not 6 people say 6 different households, that would be easy to police. But if you do 2 families, if you say 2 different households and they include, 6 from one household, 6 from the other, that's 12. And that's a bit more difficult. And that would be a bit of a pain to police because you don't know whether this lot are from the 2 different households or they're just 12 households from 12 different people, which is illegal, basically, if that's the case. But yeah, that one's a bit more difficult. Obviously, once we get to the outdoor reopenings, everything of the non-essential retail, that would be a bit more. I'm sorry, non-essential hospitality. That would be a bit more difficult, even more difficult to police. You never hear about these COVID marshals as well because I never hear about them. It was all promised that they would marshal some things when necessary, but you never hear about them these days.
Zach, it's just this coronavirus act's driving me a bit mad now. How the police are given unprecedented powers, and yet it's all like that. Some of the officers are being too heavy-handed. We had the protests of the Sarah Everard Virgil that ended up being, well, a complete craziness with peaceful protesting, and then we have this massive mob of police officers, literally. I won't say a mob, but like just brutally arresting people for no reason. It's just crazy. I think at the end of the day, the police have been given powers, but the act as well, it's just damaging liberties. And I think at the same time, the economy is going to crash out. We have these powers kept in for too long. But we're going to move on, Zach, now. It's the final thing, and this is the United States. I want to talk about Hunter Biden now, which is Joe Biden's son. Now, it's been in the news that there's been some news about a gun scandal. It's been reported across Fox News, reported across some American news stations. What do you make of this?
What, Hunter Biden, did you just say?
Yeah.
We haven't heard much. That's the thing, though. The likes of Fox News will obviously make a big deal out of it because knowing Fox News, they'll make a drama out of anything. If it was Joe Biden, if it was Donald Trump, they wouldn't make it. They wouldn't do the same. That's the network very well. I don't know what there is to worry about at the moment. It's been dealt with internally. There's obviously a Justice Department investigation. There will be a lot of king heads on that, but we haven't heard much from it, really, to be fair, Charlie. This is not a scandal that's going around at the moment, Charlie, in terms of the Biden administration. They're just getting on the job. Obviously, there's potentially a crime committee in here, so obviously that's not is necessarily good for Hunter. But obviously he's not guilty until proven guilty, obviously, and that's the thing to look out for as well. So yeah, I think this is just going to take a while, Charlie. We're not going to hear about it. This is going to take a while. And good. If you want to talk about the overall Biden administration, clearly their handling of COVID has gone down very well, and overall approval's good. So yeah, I mean, it's not much of a scandal going on there at the moment. It's not really. I mean, people can make it out as a scandal, but it's not at the moment. If it comes back and found guilty and everything like that, then there is potential problem. But we're not hearing much about it at the moment, Charlie. So I don't think it's too much for a problem.
Yeah. Now, Zach, Joe Biden had his first press conference the other day, and I have to say, I was left confused, wondering that he had to basically read a script most of the time. And
right, do you know what? Here's the thing, Charlie. Charlie. I will say this, right? Okay, I will say this with here's the thing, right? Okay, with the notes, right? Okay, it's not even a big scandal. This notes thing shouldn't even be a scandal, right? Okay, Donald Trump could lie on a regular basis and lie, and he didn't even notes for that. He would just do it. I think the important thing about his notes, Charlie, is that you could. There's facts, there's statistics that are relevant that need to be in there. It's not what you call pre-scripting or pre-noticing the question or anything. It's just getting a bit of basic facts that you need to read off, so that if you need something, you need to be statistically correct. You don't want to be false. It needs to be on there. And I think people make a big deal out of these notes. Can you imagine, if a president came unprepared and didn't know the memo and don't know the answers? It's just not a big deal. And these people, the same people in the news that are complaining about Biden using a script, have a teleprompter in there on their screen and have a blooming earpiece in their ears, Charlie, being told what to do, what to read, what to announce. And there's these presenters as well who write their own notes as well on the screen. It's just a fake outrage, Charlie. These presenters that go on screen tell you about, he's writing a bit of notes. They only put, they only focus on that. They only focus on the Biden writing notes. What they don't seem to notice, and they don't want to be paid attention to, is the fact is the presenters are writing notes themselves, reading from notes, reading from a teleprompter, getting an earpiece telling them what to say, what to do. Fake outrage, Charlie. Fake outrage. It's pathetic. I know you've gone anyway. I did you go?
my
Bless. We're having a bit of issues tonight.
But we're back there. Sorry, Zach. I could. I mean, obviously, Biden's first press conference was very interesting. But for Donald Trump, he said that the media were playing softballs with him.
That's just nonsense. I'm sorry. The point I was trying to make, Charlie, about the presenters and the notes and stuff like that, is that they're simply making up a load of nonsense. It's hypocritical as well when they complain about Biden using pre-prepared notes or statistics, not questions, by the way. The only thing he had was a list of presenters, reporters call out. I thought the questions were really good, actually, from some of the media. I mean, some of it was crap, I have to say, though. Like, one asked whether he's going to run in 2024. He answered yes. That's one bit of news that came out. Then a reporter said, well, are you certain going to run? And it was just wasted a question. There were a few crap ones in there, no doubt about it. It was just that just didn't need to be repeated. But there was some tough questions in there, Charlie, when there needed to be. Yeah, I think he did well. Joe Biden was very comprehensive. And, he's going from this from not only a position of truth, but a position of strategy, Charlie. He's going to announce his next phase of plans of legislation on Wednesday in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I believe there's going to be some sort of infrastructure package that is going to announce involving roads, rails, all that sort of thing that Republicans generally support, but probably won't vote for it because it may contain a few tax increases for the richest people in America. It just tells the difference between those two parties. But I think he knew, there'll be some questions that he knew were going to be asked. He came prepared. I think he expected that. I don't think he didn't have pre-prepared questions that he knew he was going to do. I think he, in his mind, knew he was going to, that people were going to answer him questions. And he did well, I thought. That's probably my own bias coming out. But if I was a neutral and I watched it, I thought he would have done well. And I thought he answered good questions. He did do a few hitbacks at the previous administration, trying to answer what he had reporters changing on that. It's typical. That's typical.
And Zach as well.
Yeah.
Biden's biggest job at the moment, Zach, is the border crisis in Texas. It is horrible over there. Surges of children, accommodation is poor. The immigration, it's being ripped out. It looks horrible.
Yeah.
Really need better accommodation. What do you make of this scandal on the US Mexico border?
Let's just say this, Charlie. If there is a problem at the border, no doubt. There is a problem at the border, and Biden needs to own this problem, okay? So it looks like the method is to not, send away the kids back to Mexico, for example. The administration's approach is to, put them in accommodation and seek and go through an asylum process. Now, obviously, the problem is that there's not enough beds to do this. So they're all in cramped spaces, and it doesn't look pleasant, Charlie. It's not very humane at all. If you look at the overall space and the accommodation, it's not very good. It looks like a virus spreading there. No, I mean, I'm not being racist when I say that, but I'm just making the point is that they're all packed together, and you got a problem there in terms of the actual spacing. No one could. You're just laying on top of each other. It's just you need more beds, you need more spaces. I mean, the Biden administration is trying to do that right now. They're trying to sort that out. But yeah, you got a problem there. There's no doubt about that. You got a problem with the border. I think the message of trying to don't come is not helping. It's not been heard, really. Let's just say that. So there needs to be effective policies, to stop this from happening. The idea that Republicans say, "Well, build the border wall." Well, the administration doesn't want to drop funding for the border wall. Quite frankly, they see it as unnecessary. It's not really helpful. So let's just put on the causes of it, migration, why they're coming here, rather than and fixing the problem rather than building more wall. Because I don't think even more wall helps, Charlie. To be fair, but this is a problem the Biden administration's got to go head on. I think they've been slightly unprepared for this. Let's just say that. In what's happened, because there's a lot.
I think Ted Cruz is coming. One of the senators.
Ted Cruz went there, I think, a few days ago, in a bush some sort. He was hiding. He posted a video of hiding in a bush and watching all the children come along to the centres, the processing centres. So yeah, they obviously complain about Joe Biden's policies. It's all Joe Biden's and that. We have had migrant surges, no doubt about it. This seems to be the biggest one in a few years, actually. We had a migrant surge under Trump. We had a migrant surge under Obama. This has always happened, Charlie. Let's just say this. This has always happened. But this is the biggest one. And this is the one that the administration really needs to deal with. And we need to fix. Because
Kayleigh McEnany,
party uneasy as well.
And Zach, Kayleigh McEnany, who's a former Trump press secretary and Fox News analyst, has said she's blasted the Biden administration for unprecedented lack of media access to the border. Now, what do you make of that comment?
Well, I mean, there was a pooled broadcast that did get access the other day. I think the trouble is, Charlie, is that unlike this time, we're living with coronavirus. So I think there's some excuse that you can make. I mean, yes, I think there's opportunity. You could make there should be more, but you also have to take in coronavirus. Absolutely, you should be providing media access, but how to do it safely is the best way. I think needs to be determined, Charlie. Not just let's just cram all the reporters in. And there's also some people will say, well, why don't you just visit the centres anyway? Well, not only coronavirus, Charlie, but there's privacy concern about like filming the kids as well. Some people might not want to be filmed as well. So it's just more that it's not just, you know, it's more than just, oh, let's just visit, let's go. Why can't you film? It's pathetic. You're not showing transparency. There's, you know, privacy issues, Charlie, and health issues you've got to consider as well, Charlie. Yes, they should be showing it more, but yeah, there's also privacy issues in the ways. Can't allow that to get in the way as well, Charlie.
It is crazy. I think that the border issues in the United States have got to be sorted out. There's big issues there. And I honestly have to say, big issues at the border. And I think Biden has certainly got to do something about his son as well. There's going to be big allegations over this. I'm sure, in my personal view, I think that there could be, if Hunter Biden has committed some degree of offence to this gun scandal, then I wouldn't be surprised if he gets an imprisonment. And I know last year Trump was calling for his imprisonment at one of his rallies, and he slammed the media for not reporting it last year as well. And Zach, what did you make of Trump's coverage on this issue last year?
Well, I'll take that. I'll take Trump's credibility of Hunter Biden as credible as his claims that Hillary Clinton should have gone to prison for the email leaks. I take it seriously as I take a pair of eating apples, as far as I'm aware. So that's how I view it. I don't view it as anything else. It's the latest track of unreliability from Mr. Trump. The other day he claimed that the January 6th protesters all peaceful. They didn't mean to break down the building. There was no threat. They were all kissing police and everything like that. That's credible. You get that sort of credibility from that sort of man. I don't know. I'd rather eat my own shoe than be more credible than what he is.
That was Trump's view on the Hunter Biden issue as well. So that's that from that. But we're going to move on. I just want to do one final thing before we finish. Alex Salmond has launched a new political party called the Alba Party. To finish this podcast off tonight, I'm still live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for the Globetrotter Newscast. And Zach, what do you make of Alex Salmond's return to politics with the new Alba Party?
Well, I think this one's interesting, Charlie. This one's really interesting because it's very SNP light, but for the Alex Salmond fans rather than the Nicola Sturgeon. Now, everyone, all these analyses were predicting, Alex Salmond would come back with revenge against Nicola Sturgeon. And if you looked at the launch and the people involved in it, it just feels like, as I said, independence party, but for the anti-Sturgeon people rather than anything. We hate Sturgeon, we hate the SNP, we hate everything about them, kind of thing. And it's a bit surprising, really, their entry. I mean, Alex Salmond is going to stand for Parliament again. I mean, goodness me, if he gets a seat, that would be quite something to see. The chemistry and the rivalry between those two could be something. But I think what will this do to them? Will this help them in elections? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, the voting system in Scotland is very complex. You've got a regional and a list type of votes where you vote either one for this and then two for the other. So some say this could affect the unionist parties, such as the Conservatives. Some think this better than if Alba and the SNP because then they gather them an overall majority for independence. I don't know, frankly, Charlie. I don't know. It's very confusing to me. I think two of them have actually gone from SNP to Alba. I think who's that?
Wow.
Oh yeah, Kenny McCaskill's gone from the SNP to Alba, and I think it's Neil Hardy from the as well, the other SNP MP that's also going to be standing in the Scottish elections for Alba as well. So yeah, I don't think Ian Blackford already voicing his whinginess about Kenny McCaskill. standing in the British Parliament, but also standing for the Scottish elections as well for the Labour Party.
Now, Zach, one more question before I go. Do you think Alex Salmond's new party could potentially gain any seats in Westminster, in the House of Commons?
Possibly. Will he be popular? No. That's the thing there, Charlie. A lot of in Scotland trust Nicola Sturgeon over Alex Salmond. Now, will Alex Salmond find enough of a vote to split votes, potentially allow him to get seats into the Scottish Parliament? Maybe. We don't know. There's no polling on this available yet, Charlie, as far as I'm aware, because this was announced only a few days ago. So I think there's a bit of unknowns around, Charlie, I think, about this. Is there a vote out there potentially for pro-independence, anti-Sturgeon voters? Yeah, there may well be. There may well be, but I'm not sure whether they really, whether they get enough to create a supermajority for independence, as they say, or whether they make enough dents in the SNP, or whether they dent themselves, or whether they dent the pro-unionist parties as they intend to be. It feels very Sturgeon light, but for the anti-Sturgeons of the world.
And Zach as well, this party is new, but I'm just thinking, like Nigel Farage said on a video that he thinks that this is that Alex Salmond's coming back. Oh, he's launching this new party like himself, but he says it's all like fake independence and fake Scottish independence. It's Scottish Independence Part 2. What do you make of his comments on that?
Well, Nigel Farage has credibility for starting many new parties over the years. He's been successful, to be fair. Some of them, UKIP, the Brexit Party, not with Reform, because he only lasted a few months on that, and then decided to call it quits. But the way I see it, is this for the independence ego of Scotland? Yes, it is certainly about it. The Screens are on an independence ticket, Alba Party on an independence ticket, the SNP on an independence ticket. There's a lot of independence rights about it in Scotland, and the mentions of independence will fleeing down voters' minds in this election. Whether they think of Salmond, though, is another thing. Whether they will vote for him because based on his name alone, I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Zach, isn't it? I mean, the comment down below, do you think Alex Salmond's new party will do well at the Scottish elections at Holyrood just under 6 weeks' time? Please let me know. Also, as well, on May the 6th, we have the local elections. I believe round Basildon.
Yes.
I think Gavin Callaghan is standing again.
Yeah, he's up for re-election, Charlie. He's up for re-election.
I don't know about the mayor of Basildon, though, Councillor David Burton Sampson. I think he might be, because he's the mayor. I think they're 1 year cycles. So he may have a new
it
mayor.
goes in a few years cycle, Charlie. Yeah, he'll get re-elected every few years. I think that's how it works. I think in his ward, certainly.
It's going to be interesting, Zach, isn't it? I mean, obviously, with when polling day comes, obviously with COVID, it's going to be slightly different. I know I saw Keir Starmer going out and handing some like flyers out of this week. What do you reckon the local elections are going to be like this year? I mean, obviously, Mayor of London's a big one as well, with a few new people running for that.
Yeah, I think, Charlie, I don't know how the local elections will go. But I think it's very much possible. Labour could, if we talk about the last time, local elections, Charlie. I think, is it possible for Labour to gain council seats? Yes. Possible Conservative to gain some seats? Yes, as well. I don't know. I mean, looking at the polls, if you compare it to the equivalents in 2017, Charlie, that's when these last seats were up for re-election. Then I think if you look at the current polls in 2017 compared to today, if you look at those two polls, then maybe Labour has a chance of gaining seats. I mean, I think they'll certainly keep, if London's up for re-election, Manchester, Liverpool are up for re-election. I certainly think they'll definitely keep those the mayor, Sadiq Khan, will be re-elected. I think Andy Burnham will be re-elected. I think there will be a new candidate in Liverpool to be selected for mayor there, because obviously Joe Anderson is resigned. But I think
what about the Conservative? What about the Conservative Mayor of London candidate as well? What do you make of him?
Yeah. Let me just go about the Conservatives first of all, Charlie. I mean, the Conservatives are trying to hold West Teesside, and there's also this West Yorkshire race as well, and there's also they're going to hold the West Midlands as well. They're trying to hold that as well. I don't know about their chances. What was the candidate you said again, Charlie? I got a bit confused.
It was a Conservative Mayor of London candidate.
Sean Bailey. Yeah,
Sean Bailey. Yeah,
I see. Yeah, I see who you're referring to now. I think there's a lot of people in the Conservative Party I think that are not impressed with his performance as well. I don't think they've seemed too impressed with him as far as I'm aware. What happened? What's happened with him? I just think it could be an easy re-election for Sadiq Khan. I mean, a lot of people outside London hate Sadiq Khan, but goodness me, inside London, Charlie, it's different. London's an urban city, got a lot of diversity, young, people, and Sadiq Khan will easily be re-elected. I think the Conservatives not going down very well there. I just think it will be an easy win for Sadiq Khan. I can't see Sean Bailey getting anywhere near Sadiq Khan. Even if takes it to the second round, I mean, for goodness sake, the Green vote will go to Labour. Liberal Democrat voters will go to Labour. It'll be an easy win for Sadiq Khan for re-election, I think, Charlie. There's no doubt about it, I think, in my mind.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated with the local elections as we come in. Sean Bailey and Sadiq Khan, I believe, will be the top two going for the Mayor of London in 2021. And please, guys, get out there and vote for your local councils on election day on May the 6th. We still want people to vote even during these very challenging times. Please vote. I'm old enough to vote this year, and I will go down and cast my ballot very soon in the coming months ahead. We all want you to get out there and vote in the coming months as well. But thank you so much for watching this week's edition of the Globetrotter Newscast. Take care, everyone. And most importantly, stay safe out there. Goodbye.